Hey, what's up guys? So I'm going to tell you the absolute easiest way to come up with a price for painting so that literally you in the next 30 seconds are going to be able to come up with a price. So first, if it's an exterior residential repaint, just go to your computer, type it into Zillow, the address, figure out the square footage of the home, multiply that by $2.11, and bam, there's your exterior pricing. For interior, I'm just going to put a chart up on the screen that'll break down, different size of rooms in one coat versus two, and there you go, there's your pricing for interior. So there's a lot of baggage and caveats with that pricing, but I just wanted to get you exactly what you're looking for as quick as possible, because my dream, what I hope you'll do, is go down into the comments and just type something like, "You did a good job," because that'll let YouTube know this is a good video and it'll share it with others. Alright, if you don't know who I am, my name's Shane. I run a painting company. I've helped hundreds of painters with their painting company, especially in the world of estimating. I give away so much free stuff on my website. If you need help or anything like that, go there, check it out. My goal is to give away a ton of more free stuff this year. Like today, we literally just made it so we're giving away free websites. Literally like a free website. No cost, no credit card, nothing. But anyway, let's get back to estimating. So first I'm going to talk about like the next easiest way to estimate, and at the end I'll explain how I actually estimate and why I would caution against estimating about the way I just told you, only because there is some risk and liability there. So I just want to make sure you get the full picture, so stay to the end to hear that so you just know what you're getting yourself into. But the first thing I want to say about that estimating is you'd actually be surprised, or at least I was, how many companies actually do it that way. Like I literally know of companies doing multiple millions in revenue in 1 year, and this is how they actually estimate. And I find that it's more common in the commercial world. There's a lot of reasons why, but I'll just go over a few. Like one big reason, if you think about at least interior, right? When you're doing like new construction, it is pretty standard. Like let's just think of a bunch of tract homes, right? It's like you're always painting the ceiling, you're always painting the walls, you're always painting the baseboards. Where in the residential world, it's like, oh, well this bid, we're doing the living room, but only the walls in there. But then in this bedroom, we're only doing the trim. And then in this one, we're doing the trim and the ceiling. And like, it's harder to like really standardize it based on the square footage of the home, like the floor square footage. Another reason is, a lot of times with commercial, you're bidding from plans. Like you can't just go look at it. It's just on paper and plans. And it can get pretty tricky and complicated to really come up with a good estimate that way. And if you're just doing price per floor square footage, it makes it pretty easy. And like I said, I was just surprised, and I see a lot of painting companies do it that way. And the idea is, yeah, you're gonna do bad on some jobs, good on other jobs, but as long as you do enough volume, in the end, it's all gonna average out. And if you're running employees and paying them per hour, yeah, you can maybe even lose money on a job or do really bad, but on other jobs, you're gonna do really, really well because they were just a lot easier to paint for whatever reason. Or, if you're running subs and you're just paying them a fixed percentage of the actual price, well then all that like volatility and hardship kind of falls on the sub, which can bring its own challenges and stuff. I'm not going to talk too much about that side, but my point is that's the easiest way, apart from maybe if just like looking at something and coming up with a price, but you can only do that if you have experience. So where did I get this $2.11 number from? Literally all I did is I took the last 10 jobs that my company produced for exterior, and I wrote down the price, and then I wrote down the square footage that I just looked up online, and I got a price per square foot. And that $2.11 was the average. I was surprised the cheapest was like $1.69, and the most expensive was like $3.79. So you can see there's a lot of fluctuation and variation in there, but the average was $2.11. And also just understand that's based on what I charge. I live in the suburbs of Denver, Colorado, because it is a big difference depending on where you live in the country or world. And I would say I have pretty competitive pricing. All right, so let's talk about like the next level of easy estimating, right? Like the next easiest way. And what you'll notice is as I talk about different ways of estimating, the more complexity or the more time it takes to estimate, the more accuracy you're gonna get. Accuracy in terms of like how much is it gonna cost labor and materials to produce this job. So as difficulty goes up, accuracy goes up. I'll come back to that idea in a little bit, but the next like level of easy estimating would be to actually, instead of using the square footage of the actual like floor, you're going to do the square footage of the actual painted surfaces. So like if you're thinking about interior, right, the square footage of the floor is the same as the ceiling. So we got that square footage, but now you just need to figure out the square footage of the walls. So if you know the ceiling height and the perimeter of all the walls, you can figure that out with a little bit of math. And that's going to make you more accurate. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, take some more time, but you're gonna have less volatility. Like, if you're painting a tract home that's got 8-foot ceilings versus like this custom home that's got 10 or 12-foot ceilings, it's going to make a big difference from that extra square footage. All right, and then the next like level of complexity is if you're going to actually break out different things and have a different price per square foot on that. So I'm talking about like you have like a price per square foot of walls, price per square foot of ceilings, and a price per square foot of baseboards. And then maybe you have like a price, for every door. In the exterior, it's like I got a price per square foot of spraying body and then a linear foot price for all of the trim. And if you want to make it more difficult and complex than that, you could actually break out different substrates of each thing. So like for the exterior, right, spraying siding is one price, but then if you're doing like brick or stucco, that's a different price. And then you can start to incorporate other things like, okay, well, what about the actual product and the paint that we're going to use? Because not only is there a different price per product, but some products, this one might cover 100 square foot per gallon, where this one's covering 300 square foot per gallon for one coat. And that's going to make a difference on how many gallons and how much materials you're going to use. And then you can really get into the weeds when you're thinking about, okay, like let's say that you're painting an interior, right? And you have a price per linear foot of baseboard. And to paint that, you got to make sure you don't get paint on the floor. If it's residential, make sure you don't get paint on the wall. But let's say like they say, hey, don't worry about the wall. You can get paint all over it. We're going to put wallpaper on it later, or it doesn't matter why. Well, then when you're painting the baseboards, it's easy because you can get paint all over the wall and it just makes it a lot faster and easier. Or, if you think about it, if you're going to be painting the walls too, well, then it's a lot easier to paint the baseboards. So maybe you have a price for your baseboards by themselves and then a price for baseboards with the walls. And then there's just like so much stuff that you can keep going down that rabbit hole. And basically for me, the way I think about it, and I would encourage you to, is like I said, the more difficult and complexity you add, the more accuracy you get. So it's like, what do you choose to do? And I would say if you're going to spend a lot of time, it makes it really difficult and takes a lot more time to estimate that way, but the accuracy only goes up a little bit, I would say it's probably not worth it. But on the flip side of that, if you can just add it just makes it a little bit more work on the estimating side, but it adds a ton of accuracy, well then I would say do it. And see, I've been doing this for 14 years. I've painted thousands and thousands of homes and actually analyzed and looked at how long it took and stuff, right? I have subs, I have employees. This is my passion, what I do. I'm like really deep in the estimating world, and I've actually played that game and, come up with what I think is the best balance where I'm as accurate as I can be, but still reasonable, where I'm not taking like 10 days to come up with an estimate. And currently, I actually have built that into spreadsheets. It gets pretty complicated with all the logic, and I've spent literally like over 100 hours building and tweaking these spreadsheets. And I have software now that can do the easy estimating, right? It can do price per square foot, price per unit, all that kind of stuff. But where it gets difficult is that logic, like, well, how much paint are you going to use when you change it from the eaves being body color versus the eaves being trim color? Or what's the difference in time when you're just painting ceilings versus when you're going to be painting the ceilings with the walls in terms of the time it takes to get the ceilings covered with paint? And eventually I will incorporate it all into my software, all of my estimating, but for right now, the most complicated, detailed estimating I have is on my spreadsheets, and I can show you how it synced up with my CRM and all my software stuff. But so I don't estimate the easy way because I'm trying to protect myself from getting burned, right? So, if you estimate a huge commercial job and you don't realize that it was way more complex and there was like a ton of colors and really hard stuff to trim out based on whatever the reason is, and it ends up taking a ton of man hours to where you could actually lose money on a job. And if it's a big enough job, there's some serious risk there. You could go out of business. And I'm not willing to take that risk. That's why, we put as much time as I feel is needed to have an accurate estimate. Furthermore, if you're like using subs, I want to make sure I'm giving my subs the best fair price I can so that we have a good relationship and they want to continue to work with me. Because, whether it's a 3-day, smaller job or a full month job, they should be making the same amount like per day. And they don't really care. They're not going to be like turning down jobs to where it's like, hey, I've got this job, I'm gonna pay this for it. And they look at it and they're like, what? This is, twice as hard as the last one I just painted, and it's the same price. I don't wanna do this, or something like that. So I just wanna make sure that you understand the full picture and, the risks that come with different ways of estimating. And like I said, I just wanna help you out in the best way that I can. I would challenge you to find a better price than the stuff that I give away or sell for like, e-signatures. You could do your invoicing, you can do your estimating, build the most beautiful proposal or contract or presentation or whatever you want to call it, for your clients, and make it pretty, all digital and stuff. So if you're at all interested in that stuff, go check out my website or subscribe to this YouTube channel because I'm going to be coming out with a lot more stuff all around painting. But I hope I achieved my goal and you got some value. Again, if you did, please let me know by just dropping down in the comments like, thanks, you did a good job, something like that, because it'll definitely help me out. I appreciate you watching this video. See you in the next one.